Violence in the entertainment, the level that we've attained to today, is causing increased aggressive behavior among some children.
Hundreds of studies and countless congressional hearings have looked at the issue of media violence and have always seemed to end up at the same place.
Does anyone disagree with that conclusion, that your violence in films propagates violent conduct on behalf of the children?
But for all the endless debate, a basic question remains. Is the issue really about whether we imitate what we see? And if that's the case, why do the vast majority of us watch TV and never commit a violent act?
We have become so accustomed to our cultural environment. It's like fishing that doesn't know that it's swimming in water because it has never experienced anything else.
The late communications scholar George Gerbner spent the better part of 4 decades trying to understand media violence as part of the larger complex of stories we tell ourselves as a culture. And what he found was as remarkable as it was simple. Not that consuming media violence is likely to make us violent, but that it's likely to make us more scared of violence being done to us.
The conception that if there is so much violence in the world, I'm at risk. Not that I'm going to go down the street to be a mugger, but on the contrary, I'm afraid to go down the street at night.
You always have to look over your shoulder. A lot of times you might feel uneasy if somebody's walking by you. You feel like you're always on guard.
Even as Justice Department figures show that violent crime has dropped to a remarkable 30-year low, polls have consistently shown that most Americans believe just the opposite to be true.
I've been through Y2K and I've been through 9/11. I have never seen people so afraid.
The logical question is, why? Well, surveys consistently show that upwards of 2/3 of the people who believe crime to be a very serious personal problem say they get most of their news from television. One of Gerbner's most important contributions was to reveal the human costs of the mean world syndrome, and he did this by looking carefully at how different groups are portrayed in television and movies.
Late this afternoon, 2 men were sent to prison for raping a woman outside.
He has a long record of violent arrests. That may not surprise you.
Illegal immigration,
including many murderers and rapists.
Calling for Muslims to attack the embassies of the U.S. and its allies.
The FBI is investigating several Muslim men and possible terrorist training in the Washington, D.C. area.
Whether we're talking about blacks and Latinos being depicted as violent criminals or Arabs and Muslims as extremists and terrorists, the question with all of this is whether these images of a mean world have contributed to a sense of anxiety and fear that is overwhelming our ability to think clearly and rationally.
Born in America, bred here in America, Muslim, extremist, terrorist.
He doesn't have a right to be in this country.
What? But that has nothing to do with the fact that he was drunk.
He should have been deported. He should have been deported, and this mayor and the police chief didn't deport him.
Where the f you from, dude?
Ignore.
I'm from Jalisco, Mexico. That's what I'm from.
Go back to Mexico, you cowards.
What cultivation analysis has done is to show how these kinds of anxieties and insecurities are caught up explicitly with media culture, uncovering a direct correlation between the amount of television one watches and the level of fear one has of being victimized.
They integrate and absorb a sense of danger, of mistrust, of meanness in the world, is what we call the mean world syndrome.
I have to do what I can to protect myself and my children. And that's a fact of life, a way of life.